Greetings and congratulations. We are on time today, pretty much. Sorry about my phone's alarms. I'm gonna keep it quiet. I put it in the background. Okay, audience, that's enough. Thank you so much for being here. Um, Let's see. I'm gonna make sure the audio is good. Yes, the audio is good. So let's get to it. Thank you so much for being here. Today we're gonna follow a painting process together that I filmed in advance. So let's first greet everyone who's in the house. Let me move this window here so that I can look at you. Nikki, no worries. You're gonna watch this one after the fact, but I really do appreciate the fact that you will do that. Let me make sure. Yes, I'm on the right audio settings. Hey, Lollipop. How are you doing? Hey, Jill. Hope you're doing well. Always good to see you too on a live stream. Buck, my friend, hope you're doing well. Sujanith, hello. King of course, King of Perspective. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny how a lot of my paintings that you like, I kind of trace. But once in a while, I just get one right the first time with just a quick sketch and the perspective and everything looks great. So yeah, hey Lydia, how are you doing? John, hope you're doing well too. Art by Richard. Hey, how are you doing, Richard? Kristen, hi from what is RE? That's the one thing I don't really know. I don't think I've ever Rhode Island. Okay, okay, okay. I don't think I ever encountered that. Thank you so much for being here. Hillel, how are you doing? Thank you. Laura, thank you so much. So I'm gonna be frank with you. I was dead sick for a couple of days to the level of, hallucinations when you're sitting there and you're just toast and you're seeing not really seeing things, but when I took a couple of hours from 5 p.m. For 5 hours until it was time to go to bed, basically, of just being in bed, being like this, completely done, completely toast. And I was drifting in and out of dreams. It felt like one long dream. I always have these dreams when I'm really, really sick. It was tough. So, all of this to say, hopefully, right now I feel much, much better, but I want to make sure my voice doesn't go out. Um, After the last live stream, my throat hurt really bad. And I thought it was just talking, but it wasn't. It was the premonition. It always starts with a throat ache and then comes the sickness. So just letting you know. And by the way, Merry belated Christmas, happy holidays to everyone who celebrates, of course. Hope you had a wonderful holidays and wishing you a happy new year soon. Very soon. But yeah, so we'll probably keep this live stream contained somewhere within the 1 hour mark this time. But just to let you know, I'm going to try and let the painting process do some of the talking at least. Hey, Arthur. Or the Arthur. Hello, good morning to you too. Golden Pigeon, how are you doing? It's been a while, right? Yashwant, hello and Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Steve, afternoon. Thank you so much for being here at the right time for your live video for once. So happy to see you here right from the beginning. Nancy, hey, thank you so much. Yes, much, much better today. It was rough. Nancy, it was rough. Ryan, how are you doing? Good morning. Buck, yeah, no worries. Oh, you're also recovering? Yeah, so many people. My sister also told me a lot of people were sick lately. It's this winter thing. Golden Pigeon, I'm back for a few minutes. I'm studying for my exams, but I took a break and saw your video. Thank you so much. I'm seeing your paintings, but not communicating. Yeah, no worries at all. Life is busy. So let's get to the process. I'm going to share my screen here with you. And what I'm going to do is narrate what's going on. I did, as I mentioned, film this in advance. I know the best format is to do everything while on the live stream, of course. Um, it's the best. But I wanted to have something prepared. It takes a lot more energy, and I just wasn't there. But I'm very happy with this painting process, and the narration is going to be real time. We can pause the video, look at the details, figure out what's going on screen. Now let me just bring up the reference photo. There we go. We're pretty much ready to go. I can see the chat over here. I can see the video from here. And yeah, thank you so much, Golden Pigeon. I like your painting so much, especially the reflections. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of kind words about the reflections, and shiny metal effect. People like that, and I also commented to one of the questions I got, or one of the comments I got. That's the only way I know how to paint. I just paint it usually as I see it, as my vision sees it, whether it's the same or different, and that usually ends up with a lot of reflections too, and a lot of nuances that I love. I really, really love. Hey, Linda, thank you so much. Tara, hello from England. Thank you for being here. Ravencloak, I love that name. Good morning from Canada. Is that, where's that screenshot from? What game? What Zelda? I'm not sure. What link is this? There are so many. Um, can you tell us about the reference photo? I was going to do a paint along, but I didn't realize it was pre-taped. Yeah, sorry about that. You can find a link to the reference photo in the description box. I also threw in there just sketch. Um, you can do a paint along just the same, because I'm going to let the process run probably once, and then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty or some critical, crucial stages. But yeah, it's basically a picture of two dahlias. I just cropped it to have the left one. Oh, I think there's no link to a sketch, but I'm gonna show you the sketch now. I'm gonna blow my nose a bit, so my apologies about that, just because I'm still a bit out. I'll try not having it too egregious. But yeah, thank you so much, Sujanith. So just to talk a bit about the reference photo, so I've been asked for a while to do a Dahlia, Dahlia's process. It's a tricky one because there are a lot of petals, there are a lot of shadows, there are a lot of nuanced patterns, and it's not always obvious how to paint them. In the previous attempt, I tried going with a bit more of a holistic, impressionistic approach. Didn't like the way it turned out as much. A lot of you were very kind in the comments and let me know that you like it, but um, I feel like there are better ways to approach this. So I want to show you, I'm quite proud with the end result. I will show it to you near the end of the video. Um, but the way I'm drawing it, and feel free to get the reference photo, download it, and like open it up on a large screen. The way I'm drawing, usually these kinds of subjects, I like to draw. Sometimes I'll draw just the shapes as I see them, but for flowers with lots of petals, I do like to first draw the petals in, then add the shapes of the shadows. So what I'm doing right now is mostly drawing the petals. Now, at some point, I'm kind of breaking off of what I'm seeing and adding them in from almost imagination, or I'm inventing and moving things around. That's not really something I there's no real logic to that, so it's not even something I'd encourage you to do necessarily. But I just kind of put in the petals in the pattern I'm seeing them. I don't have to draw them one by one. Sometimes I just lose my orientation, so I just kind of wing it. Now I do want to pause this for a second. This is when I'm starting to draw the shadows. Okay. Um, Maybe I'll get off camera for a second as I blow my nose. Full screen layout. There we go. Sorry about that. You can expect some of these, but this should set us for a couple of minutes. Golden Pigeon, can you paint the logos of your subscribers too? Obviously you can, but I asked you can post a series of them. I have a problem going around on the current painting I'm working on. Yeah, but how will the logo help you with the painting? That's my question. But yeah, it could be a fun kind of challenge or side thing to do, for sure. Um, so yeah, so you see me drawing the shadows now. The shadows have a simple pattern, relatively speaking. They mimic the shape of the petals. So you have a petal, let's say it's like a triangle, and then underneath it, you have the shadow mimicking the shape. Let me pause this for a second. There are very few of them that I felt the need to actually draw. Um, and because the rest are just going to follow the exact same pattern. So we're getting into the painting stage. Now, just to give you a bit of an explanation on how I'm approaching this, there are going to be two main washes. The first wash is where I'm trying to achieve a few things. One thing is the overall feeling of yellow from the very center, and you can see my cursor here, from the very center of the petals all the way outside, and some kind of a beautiful edge next to the petals that are on the outer side. So I want to make, you see these beautiful paintings of florals and flowers that have some petals have a very soft edge to them. I love that. That's something I want to show here. So some softness, and then in the next wash, I'll start bringing out the hard edges and the shadows themselves. So that's what you see me do, which is why I start with this nice yellow. And as I move outside from the center, I'm just bringing in water. Because if you look at the dahlia, the center part is the most yellow. And that's the pattern I'm following. Let's see what you're saying here. So I'm going to stretch it out and then switch over to some greens for the background. Golden Peach says, part two, there is a dark part in the painting and I'm doing it opaque style with watercolor. It never gets right the exact same as the reference photo. Oh yeah, I get it. I think the best thing is send me an email. You can find my email in the channels about. That would be the easiest. Just send me an email with the example and the reference photo. I'll take a good look and let you know what I think. Hopefully that can help. Because I kind of know what you mean, but I'll have to see the specifics. Hey Marjorie, here if you're taking attendance, dahlias never grew or painted, so this will be interesting. Yes. So what I want you to pay attention to is first, I'm just going to extend the area. So I'm bringing in some water, and I'm just extending the areas. I'm painting it almost like one big wash. Tara, do you have a book? I'm actually working on a book. I'll share it with you after we'll look at the process. I'm on the final stages of the book about my 100 cars challenge. Actually making some huge progress. Now I switched over to my larger Levinson brush, and I want to get the background to blend with the edge of the petals. Things are still wet enough, and you'll see as soon as this wash touches the existing wash on the petals, it's still going to be fine and they're going to blend together. Okay. I will leave a few highlights here and there. Those were almost accidental, unplanned highlights, but I just left them there because they looked nice. I'll close off some of them later on. But first off, water and creating the smooth transitions, because the hard transitions can be achieved later on. And that's a lot of the beauty you see with these very advanced florals that look wonderful. The way it's achieved is first you take care of all the smooth edges if you want to have both, and so and in a very what's the right word for it, nuanced and advanced in that they're very well thought out edges. So, and you'll see this the more I start to darken that background wash. So I'm starting with a bit of a yellow with very little blue in it. It's almost just yellow, to be honest with you. I find that most greens are actually yellows, especially if they're bright. You see mostly yellow. Now look at these couple of shapes I'm putting here. This is very, very, very thick paint. So what you'll see, to me, this is the highlight of this process, really. This is the best part. What you'll see is these smooth edges being created. That's the exact moment you want to pay attention to. This combination of paint that is, okay, so when you put paint on paper and it's quite wet, you have about 60 seconds to, depending on your climate and all of that. Golden, not mail, email. Send me an email. Find the email, not mail, email. It's liron@lironian.com. It's this email, not mail. No need to send me a post. Snail mail, or it's called. When you first lay down the wash, if you come back with very thick paint, as sometimes people do, it will still spread out too much. To get the control you're seeing here, you're going to have to let it sit for, it depends on the climate, and you can see it visually by the sheen, but you're going to have to let it sit for, I would say, about 60 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to rewind it just a bit because I do think it's an important bit here, because that's what you want to pay attention to. The paint is now perfectly ready to get that very thick paint from the brush, okay? And you'll see these transitions created. I think they're wonderful because that's the moment when the painting is truly created. The rest is much, much simpler. Mireya, could you talk about your brush? quality, brand, price, etc. Yes, so the Lebenson brushes are the large goat I used earlier. You can find everything in my tools and supplies page. You can find the link in the description box. It's basically freewatercolor.com/gear, GEAR. You can find there this specific brush. It's called the large goat hair. And this is in a Skoda Barocco. I don't remember the prices, but both of these are super high quality. I like the Lebensons for more of a free direct painting method, and I like the Skodas for more places where I need thin accuracy. Um, they aren't the Lebenson one specifically. This specific one is a little pricier. Um, the Skoda is, I think it's considered a normal price. But yeah, Skoda Levinson. Now I'm going to tilt the paper a bit to help the paint move together and kind of slide down, and you will see this in a couple of seconds as it starts to dry. That area where the very opaque paint meets the right here, right? That's going to be our um, that's going to be something that like a preparation for later to get it to look really really beautiful. Now we're the paint on paper is primed to receive some darker paint still, so I'm grabbing my large brush. This one was provided to me by Michael Soloviev, actually very kindly sent me this brush and a bunch of sketchbooks. And notice how these brush marks, they're very thick paint once again, in the perfect timing where the paint can still accept new paint and have it not spread out too much. So whenever someone paints a very subtle clouds, wet and wet, where it's a sunset and the clouds are slightly darker than the sky, but they still get smooth edges, that's how they do it. Now I'm still spraying a bit more because I want to give it a bit more time and to move. Now you see I'm closing in some of the gaps here that I have from before. Now the one mistake I made in this painting was I was ambitious. I wanted to add this little bud there. I don't know what you'd call this. So I'm lifting. I think it came out nicely. I just am not sure how it fits in the composition because the initial composition was just the dahlia. I don't think it's necessary, but that's fine. That was a spur of the moment kind of thing, and you see me struggling a bit to lift it too. But the fact that I'm even able to lift it shows you just how much the paint was still at least a little moist, so I could work with it. And that I would say more than anything is the value of actually allowing yourself more time by using wetter paint at first, right? It's just physics. The more water you use, the more time you'll have to work with the paint while it's wet. Nancy, yes, that's a really cool brush for Michael. I love it. It has great capacity. I used it in divination as well, which is my hugest painting so far. I know that's not a word. Painting so far, so it's quite useful. The only challenge with large brushes, and it's not this brush, it's any brush inherently because of their sizes, they take long to mix with because you're using more paint. That's just reality. That's how it's going to be. So now I have this little bud there to the side, added a bit of a pink quinacridone rose, added a bit of green to its base. I'm going to darken a bit more of it with some neutral tint and a bit of my yellow. That's how I like to mix my dark greens. The background is made that way as well. Now, the paper is pretty much dry now. There is this last like 5% or 10% of wetness that still allows the paint to move just a little bit, which is going to be nice. Yeah. D. Arthur, thank you. I'm not sure if you refer to the painting, the petals, or the brushes. Okay, the brushes, yes. Good. Now everything is dry. So we've made all the preparations necessary to, and notice the difference once it dries. This is dry, this is wet. Can you see how you can tell it dried lighter? So we made a preparation down here, so we have some soft edges here as well, here as well. Now we can start establishing some hard edges and shadows. So I'm going to start with the shadows. Now, if you actually grab the photo and sample the color of the shadows, and I want to show you something cool. In just a second. If you sample the colors, it's a gray that moves from a very slightly warm gray to a slightly cool gray. So the way I mix it is neutral tint with a bit of yellow and red, and then gradually adding more and more blue to it. Okay, it's a very nuanced difference. It's barely any, it barely even shows, but it is there. Now, the thing I want to challenge you almost is we've been painting this together, right? So you're seeing the painting develop. There will be a moment where all these shadows will make sense and the petals just appear. And that's, to me, a big part of what's so fun about painting. It is, you never know exactly when it happens, but when it does, when the impression is there, things click. It's a huge win. Sometimes you're painting and things don't connect, they just don't look good. And then there's this point where, oh, now I can read this really well. Sometimes you're too close to the picture and you take a day's break or a couple of hours break. When you come back, you're like, oh, I haven't noticed, but this snippet actually looks really realistic. This part reads really well. There is this moment where things begin to pop quite literally. They look three-dimensional for the first time. I love that moment and I paint for that moment. So you will see it slowly and gradually build up, the impression that is. But first, it's going to look like a bunch of abstract shapes. So yeah, starting with, there's a pattern of kind of sharp, I don't want to say needles, but a sharp area. Tara, no worries. The shadow is mixed with neutral tint as a base black color. And then to that, I add both my yellow and red. In this instance, it's mostly lemon yellow and quinacridone rose. And then the more I add blue to it, in this case, it's cobalt blue, it starts to push it to be more and more cool. To that same mix, I just add more and more blue. I also believe at some point I add a bit of carbazole violet. I want to make it a little more neutral with the yellow. So here you're starting to see me add a bit of cobalt. What you see there on the right side, that's a bit of when I mix here, it's starting to get gray. That's the cobalt making the difference. So yeah, so there's this needle pattern. Again, this is all about patterns. You start with the pattern that goes like this, and as the petals spread out, the shadows change their shape too. And if you can capture that, you'll do really well. At some point, you'll be, oh, you'll feel that. Oh, I'm seeing the shapes. I'm really seeing them. By the way, Tara and everyone here, I have in the description of the video, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to confirm it. There's a link. Oh, yeah, I don't have it on my live streams. My apologies. I'll add it later. I started including a link of my palette, all the setup of the paints I have on it, and you can see everything exactly as it is. I will make sure to edit next time because I copied the description from a previous live stream and I updated only in the normal videos. But yeah, my apologies about that. You can find it in the last video I posted. If you go to the description, you'll see a link to the exact setup of this palette that Marjorie sent to me. And thank you so much, Marjorie. Nancy, really nice subtle changes in the colors. Yes, and you can see it gradually changing, right? Gradually shifting. Now, once you add shadows under the petal, people start seeing the petal. That's just how the illusion of painting works. Um, there's so many things that run through my mind in the last couple of weeks and months of insights that I just am hesitant to share because I know the way they'll be interpreted is not the way I actually perceive them. That's because I still don't know how to squeeze them into an insight that is the truth about how I see it, which is why I'm waiting for a bit. But there is so much swirling in my head. A bit of it is going to be in the Cars book, by the way, which again, I'm making a lot of progress on. Kristen, that is exactly right. This is it. When you paint the petals, you're negatively making the petals, when you paint the shadows, sorry, of the petals rather, you negatively make the petals appear. That's the strength of this illusion. And it's always easier to see when you're not the one doing the painting. So the next time you paint something like this and you're not seeing it, you can do a lot of things to see it. All the, take a break, blah, 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 take some distance from it, but it actually does make a difference in how you perceive the painting, and you do see it differently when you're so close to it. Now, one thing I want to make sure is not to spoil these soft edges. So I'm going to be very careful around them, and I'm going to skip most of them because I want to make sure the soft edges are preserved, so that when I add the background with the hard edges, that's when it's going to really make an impact. Uriah, yes, exactly. It is appearing as a 3D image. It'll start to happen. It's a magical moment. It starts to happen when I add a background. It's going to happen even more. It really builds up, step by step. Hey, Lollipop Strawberry, I saw you there. Hope you're doing well. So yeah, and you see none of these cast shadows are just yellow, just blue. It's all in the nuances. It's a very, very nuanced difference. So now we're done with the petals. Now, even if you just get up from wherever you are, or you just look away from the screen for a couple of minutes and you come back to it, you'll see it. But yeah, it's a part of that illusion. Indeed, coming alive. Yes, yes, and it's carving the shapes. That is accurate. Can you do a pop art watercolor paint? Yeah, maybe I'll do something like that. It's so off my path that it could be fun actually. So look, now I'm mixing very rich paint. That's how I like to call it. Rich because it's pretty strong, it's pretty dark, but it's also wet enough to move on paper. And it's also a bit cooler. Now, what this will do is right now the shadows, Patrice, yes, I'm so happy to hear. Exactly. It's suddenly it appears. Now, let me show you how it's going to appear even more. Because right now there is a lot of lightness on paper around the petals too. The background's not that dark. Once we start darkening the background, it's going to recontextualize the whole thing, and the petals are going to appear even more. It's just the way the illusion is created. So notice how as we add this background and carve out the outer petals that we haven't carved out with shadows yet, those are the outer petals, you'll start seeing it really work. And to me, that's a great fun. I did a painting yesterday. I'm going to show you afterwards. I shared it in my story. I also shared it in a post on Instagram where it just happened right in the beginning. And I was very lucky. I love when it happened. When things connect early on, it's rare, but it happens. It's elating. It really is. And then you can carry it all throughout the painting process. It's just so much fun. Now, because I'm using a relatively wet paint, again, I call it rich paint. And you'll see I'm very careful with the soft edges. I'm going to soften what I just put there and not continue over more soft edges. Uh, so because I'm using, so I lost my track for a second. Because I'm using very rich paint, I have time. I have time to extend the wash up above. You'll see I'm starting to paint the other petals, and you'll see even though the two washes touch after the one on the right started to dry, it's very early on. It's not even close to being too late. When you paint a wash and then you try to merge a wash with it and it doesn't work, it just does not work because you were too late. We're not even close to that here because the paint is still wet. And don't forget, you can always spray on it to keep it alive for longer. That's something you're totally allowed to do. If you look at the bar, we're really close to the end of the process itself because the process is quick and simple, right? Painting processes don't have to take long. Very often, when the vision works and when things work, you don't need much to convey what you want. Even for more detailed scenes, I find when a painting takes 7 hours to complete, usually it's because I was ineffective in my perception of that. Sometimes it's not always the case. It depends on how realistic you want it to look and how detailed, how granular the details are. But often it is just me not realizing how I can get a lot done much more effectively and much more easily, as opposed to the struggle that is very popular and romanticized, that things should be hard, you should work hard work is what leads to results. Not really, from my experience. I've been doing painting watercolor at home. Cool. Do you do pop watercolor art? Because I don't see a lot of it. I see some of it, but more of the pop art I'm seeing in acrylics and oils. Ryan, I can't see in the video, but can you still see the pencil marks for the petals at the top there? Or are you improvising? That's a good question. You know what? Let me check that for a second because I'm not sure. So when I'm just going to rewind a little bit. So here's the thing. I'm seeing some of them. You can see a bit of it here, maybe barely. I'm seeing some of them, but I'm adding a new border of new petals behind them. So I'm improvising to a large extent. I am indeed improvising, yes. And a lot of it is like that for me too. The shadows, some of the cast shadows of the petals, some of them were improvised. A lot of it is how I do it. Um, if you have a strong vision and you know how to navigate the painting, it's the kind of thing that will just start to happen naturally. You'll start improvising a lot. I'm a big believer in improvising. If you can cut corners, make things a lot easier on yourself. I think the idea of cutting corners is demonized too much. Cutting corners doesn't mean, if you put people at risk, of course, you shouldn't cut corners. And here you can see, here's the final result. So you see these lines here, but I added another almost layer of petals. And I kind of improvise, this isn't a perfect petal. What is this shape? Shouldn't it go through here? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I improvised. And yeah, if I exit the full screen, and I can share with you like a proper scan and show you in small or large size, and you can see the three-dimensional impression. I think it's really, really cool. But yeah, this is pretty much the process. You'll notice towards the end, I added a bit more of a dark orange there. Let me actually get like a picture, or I can actually do this. There we go. So look at how, especially from afar, the impression is there, the petals read, and of course there are improvements, there are details to be added to the individual petals, but for the most part, everything is there. The pencil lines are very visible. I have the painting here. Let me show you. If I go solo here, just a real life version, right? You can see the pencil lines are quite visible. Of course, you'll see it better in the scan. So let's go back to here. But yeah, and what does it for me, is a lot of the impromptu, fun little highlights that don't necessarily even have a meaning to them, but I kind of like them. That works really well for me. But to me, the main focal point is look at these spills of petals that kind of melt into the distance. A bit of it can be seen here too with the green leftovers. It can be done with a lot more finesse. And when you look at someone like Jasmine Huang, the way she paints these is just incredible, superb. Um, it's just not really my go-to subject matter. So this is exactly where, just like an RPG, a role-playing game on a PC or whatever, Sony PlayStation, the thing you do more is the thing you almost, I don't even want to say improve at, but maybe your understanding of it improves. So you better get the nuances. So when I paint a car, for example, there are so many things that if you never painted a car, you won't notice, which is perfectly fine. You can produce a masterpiece even without noticing them. But sometimes it can even work better. But some of the things I notice now, because I've done it so much, are things not a lot of people will. Same goes for florals. And when you look at someone who paints mostly florals, they will definitely have some insights, nonverbal insights, not insights that can be verbalized and be told, this is how you paint a petal. It's more of an experiential insight. And you can start paying attention to a lot more nuances. For example, again, the way I carved out these shapes, the way I left these highlights very haphazardly because I just went for it. The way these were like, okay, so one level is to succeed in creating a soft edge. Another level is to know in advance where you'll leave these soft edges. And when I say in advance, I don't mean necessarily before you start painting. I mean, as you're doing the painting. I didn't really know it as I was doing the painting. I just kind of went for it. Does that make sense? So it's levels upon levels upon levels. And it's not about improving, and it's not about hard work and putting in the time and effort. I think it's about sharpening your understanding, and that can happen very fast as well. It is a vector that is disconnected from time. That's how I see it working. It is a completely different realm. It has to do with how much the subject um, compels you to paint it, because some subjects just, I did a painting like 2-3 times. I did 3 attempts of the same scene. I was trying to film it for a video. It didn't work out. It looked like crap the third time too. Now, I don't know, maybe someone else would love it. I didn't. And I think it's because, honestly, when I look back at it, it's not a picture I took and I was uninspired by it. The third attempt, I just scraped it and moved on with my life, shift deleted all the videos I filmed, just went on to paint another one. Um, it's that alchemy between the subject matter and you as the artist. That's what I would say. Let's look at some of your comments. I can kind of let this process move run in the background. Some things you always miss in first viewing. But let's see what you're saying here. Yes, happy that was helpful. Ryan, a lot of it is really, it's what I feel at the moment like doing. So here you can see the lines, right? These are the lines. I just added that border above them just because I felt like it. Thank you so much, Patrice. Tara, thank you so much. Very happy this was helpful. Ravencloak, thank you so much. The Arthur, thank you. I love the edge variety and contrast. Yes, that edge variety is the thing that gets me. Even the cars I painted. This thing right here, it's the edge. It's this thing here, that thing, where it's the light kind of burns out the edge of the shape. I love these kinds of effects. It's a lot of what I enjoy. Karen Mai paints really beautiful flowers. Yes, yes, she does. Karen Mai is standout. Jasmine Huang is a standout. Their work is insane. Actually, I'm inspired to look at some Karen Mai. She does a bunch of other subjects that turn out fantastic. That person with the stall, the vegetable or fruit, whatever farmer, that was fantastic. I love it. It becomes intuitive. Yes, indeed. Yeah, when it takes me too little time, I always feel like I'm shorting the person who gets it. You know, I think again, it's that story, right? I don't remember what artist said that it took them a second and they charged more for it because of the experience that went into it. Whatever. There's this story; it's very well known, and of course, I don't remember it. Um, I think the experience you have really feeds into it, and how much you're walking on that path, whatever the path is for you. Um, you can achieve a lot with little effort. I can give you the best example of something that takes much less time and leads to an even better result. Let's say you want to, pre-wet for an initial wash. You can start, and let me go ahead and balance it out a bit. I mean, come on. We've seen the process. Let's keep it in the background. So one thing is you can pre-wet it with the brush, go over the entire painting and pre-wet it if it's small. What you can do is take a cup of water and just dump it over it. You'll get it as wet or even wetter if you need it, much faster. All of these shortcuts that are demonized, at the end of the day, it's not a shortcut, it's a way of getting things done. As simple as that. I'm completely agnostic to it. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's just a way of getting things done. If you have a bunch of tools that you made yourself, even to make the painting process more effective, more efficient, faster, look beautiful, I'm all for it. In fact, I'm really thinking hard about the kinds of things I can make for myself. Like the thing I try doing, putting a lot of paint in a spray bottle so that I can spray tinted water if I want to. Right, a lot of these things, it's not a shortcut necessarily. Even it's just a method that you discovered that makes your processes much more effective. And why not? Who doesn't want to make their processes more effective? Paula, it's harder to paint subjects that you aren't very familiar with, for example, boats or birds. So here's the thing. I don't think it's necessarily harder. I think different things will come to surface. If you're very familiar with cars, flowers, whatever, you'll start noticing things not many other people notice, and it will show. If you're completely foreign to an object, I would argue it's even easier to paint, because what's the hardest thing to paint? Probably portraits, because we're so built to be familiar with the human face that every small inaccuracy ruins it completely. But imagine you'd paint an object you've never seen before, some alien artifact, something you've never, ever, ever seen before. It will probably be easier because you won't be limited by your familiarity with it. That's the point. But again, it's not black and white. These things are will depend on the artist. This is one of my favorite parts, by the way. And I love how this brush can show the individual details, almost like hairs. I'm going to use it to paint hair for sure. Linda, valuable info. Thank you. Thank you so much. Luis, this was super informative and even a little motivating. Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, I'm not even trying to be as informative necessarily. If I can get one person who watches a video to just feel so inspired to go and do it, that's the real value, I think. Because anything that is, here's how I do it, this is how you should do it, is just false. There's no should here at all. It's all about um, discovering your own path. Not because I told you so, but because you're genuinely interested in discovering it. A lot of my finest work is done only because I took the easy path of painting something I love, something I enjoy painting, something I'm motivated and compelled to paint. And that's it. That had nothing to do with necessarily my familiarity with it, my techniques, my experience, all of these things. They play into the end result, but to a more limited extent than some would believe. I have a proof for that, by the way. I painted using Copic markers. The first thing I painted using them came out very realistic. And I'm not familiar with the medium. I just had a good vision of what I'm painting. Um, Kristen, would you use the same approach if it was a red dahlia? Depending on the light and shadow. If the light and shadow were identical, what you'd see me do is instead of using a first wash that is yellow that turns to white, I would probably do a first wash that is whatever. The yellow turns to a light red. Um, Depending again on the light and shadow. Now, if the light and shadow were completely different, let's say the light came from behind, it would make the red probably, well, it depends how transparent the petals are and the angle. It could turn the red into more vibrant. It could turn it into darker. It could do a lot of things. So I would say it would more depend on where the light comes from rather than the color of the dahlia. If it were red and everything else was identical, the first wash would be just a yellow and a red, and a light red probably, instead of cleaner water or a gray kind of mud mix of water. Vixelnix, hey, from Montreal, thank you for being here. J. Elias or Elias, do you ever paint standing up? If so, what would be the benefit or difficulty? So, just like everything else, there isn't really a right or wrong answer here. The answer to your question is a yes. I do sometimes paint standing up from choice, not because I'm doing a plein air, but even here in the studio. Um, I find very personally, for me, it loosens me up. Because I'm not confined by a chair and my arm can move around a painting much more freely. It helps me, especially when I paint larger pieces. And sometimes it's just a necessity. That's why I'm saying when I stand by choice, because sometimes if the painting is really long, like the Venice painting, if it's a very high vertical oriented painting, it's very hard to read the shapes from that angle. So it's useful to see it from above, which is why I'll stand up. I don't think there's necessarily any difficulties with painting standing up, aside from if it's hard for you to stand up. But I see only positives usually. The reason I do it is because it helps me with something I'm after. Just it frees up my shoulders. I find just gets my range to be bigger, and it does mean you're probably a bit farther from the painting, which may help you see the overall shapes a little better. That's another benefit, but it will really vary from one person to another. I definitely do that. I definitely stand up sometimes in the more advanced stages of a painting when I need to see it from afar, sometimes in the earlier stages where I want to cover up large areas fast. So you see how it really depends on the case. And none of it is a recommendation. You test these things out, and whatever works for you works for you. Sorry, skip this. Linda, learning soft and hard edges. Thank you. Yeah, and a lot of it is just that moment where the paint is starting to dry. It's been on the paper for about 30, 60 seconds, something like that, depending on the climate, the weather, the day. Maybe it's a little longer. Maybe it's 2 minutes. Maybe if you sprayed a lot of water, it's a little longer too. But generally speaking, that's the range you're after. It really, and then you come with that very thick paint. it can create some beautiful effects that are a wonderful preparation for later. Because again, hard edges are easy to do. You just paint a shape. That's the default. So yeah, Laura, three strikes and you're out is my philosophy if I can't get a painting right. Yeah, I don't have any philosophy, so to speak, about that. It really is a matter of um, how driven you are to paint it. Because if you remember, I did like 5 or 6 or 7 iterations of the vegetables I've shown you a while ago. It was a painting I did a whole video about because it was so I just had to nail it. I just had to get it right. So I did like 7 attempts. If I had a philosophy in that case, a rule that I follow, it might have meant I would never have that result come to fruition, which is a shame to me. So it's not really a rule to follow. More like I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Usually the problem arises when you feel something but you just deny it, right? Um, that cliche of whatever you resist persists. If you are really not enjoying painting its subject matter, but you tell yourself, by the way, because of a rule you set up for yourself to follow, that you must do it until you get it right, rules like that they don't touch the viscera. They don't have real power to motivate anyone. What really motivates a person is not a rule that you set for yourself. That's the problem I find, at least with it. The problem is that you're doing something out of some kind of an ideal to follow, and even if you'd succeed the seventh time, but you suffered all the way through it, you would still fail, quote unquote. But I personally don't have a rule around it, so I was like, okay, I really just want to get this one right, right? Oh, that's a very long answer, but yeah, that makes sense. And thank you, Paula. My pleasure. Jabu, hello everybody, and thank you for being here, Jabu. Um, hey, Josh, how are you doing? So happy to see you today. Tara, how long have you been painting? Started with watercolor at around end of 2015, which sums it at around 8 years. I've been drawing ever since I remember myself. Took a break from drawing seriously around, I'd say, junior high school. Came back to it much later at the age of 21, 2. Became really serious about it. And then around 24, 5 is when I started painting. I became immediately serious about watercolor. I don't know why. Ian, I like to stand because when I sit, my shoulders tend to round forward and my back hurts. Yeah, that makes total sense that you'd like to stand up. Um, I think you can paint standing up, lying down, sitting, jumping. Everyone will have the thing that works for them. So it's not really about what the most beneficial necessarily way to paint. It's finding it for yourself because everyone's so different in that regard. But yeah, so I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions regarding the process, this is a great moment to ask. I do want to share with you, and then we can kind of let's actually. I want to show you. So this is great live stream. I have a goal to paint better watercolor flowers. Cool, Nancy. Yeah, I'm happy that that helps. This is something not a lot of you have seen. This is the draft of my 100 Cards Challenge book. It is a first draft that is very bad, by the way. It is not a good one. What I did was I wanted to test out the quality of printing for the hardcover books that Amazon produces. And this is why, by the way, sorry, it's getting a little dark here. This is formatted all wrong. If I open it up for you on a random page, it's not the way I wanted it to look. So I restarted this project and I'm at a very advanced stage. It is much tighter. It's much of a better concept. The design is much better. It's going to be smaller size. I was looking for, because most of my cards are painted horizontally, I was really looking for a horizontal format. The limitation was Amazon only does this for one type of dimensions, and the dimensions is 6.5 inches on 8.25. So the final size of the book is going to be something about this size, and it's going to open up like this. So that's the approximate size of the book. because that's the only format that is horizontal, if that makes sense. All their other formats are vertical. So the book is going to be like this, lengthwise, but small, right? Like this. It's going to open up. It's going to be small book. It's going to look really, really good. I've included some small snippets of insights there, but mostly it's describing the cars and the journey of painting them. And it includes some of the newer paintings as well. I'm very excited about it. I'm not sure when it's going to be released, but we're probably looking at Q1 of 2024. It just depends on how long it's going to take for them to send me another review copy and for me to review it, make fixes, and then hit the publish button. It's probably going to be Q1 though, so something to look forward to. If you've been wanting to own a lot of my paintings in one place, I think that's the perfect way to do it. I can actually show you a snippet of the book. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that without spoiling too much. Work, books, cars, manuscript. Let me see how I can show you the book again without spoiling too much of it. And let's look at your comments in the meantime. New Mew Heart, how to stay loose in painting. I think the answer to that is to find the thing that prevents you from being loose, because to be loose is almost the natural state of painting, um, which is why if it's not happening, it's very natural. There's nothing wrong with it. If it's not happening, something is probably preventing you from being loose. And the trick, quote unquote, is to find the thing that stops you from being loose. I know it's a kind of a non-answer, but it's not really, I can throw a bunch of tips at you. Try standing up, try squinting your eyes to see the overall composition. All of these things will probably not help you. What will help you is to know that if you're not loose, there's probably a gap in your understanding of what's preventing you from being loose. That's where I would start searching for. And I would look for examples where you were able to be loose successfully and it worked out. That's a big hint as to what's missing or what's preventing you from being loose. Let me share my screen here. I think we should be okay. So wait, just give me a second. I just don't want to spoil the content. So there we go. Now that's better. Present, share screen, window. There we go. Okay, sorry for the zoomed out view. I will just reverse it. Yeah, that's good, I think. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to not be legible on purpose, but just to show you a bit of it. That's the cars. It's again a horizontal format. For some of these, of course, I'm showing some more details. Like this is an interesting one. Let me show you some more. I'm showing you the whole thing, but yeah, like this is super nice. I like these kinds of spreads that show the. It's okay to spoil some of the content. That's fine. I don't think it's going to be very easy to read anyway. But yeah, and let's do view display high quality, just so you see the full quality of the pictures. That is, yeah, indeed, car book, Nancy. I think this is coming out really nicely. Plus, I included that one painting I told you about around the end of the book. Look, this one, remember it? The Thunderbird, also lovely ones. Some sketches too, to show you some of the process. Some stages as well for this motorcycle. And I want to show you the end. So this painting, which I really like. If you want to see I'll show you a better version of it in a second. But just I'm really excited about this. As soon as I remembered how I was motivated to make this book, and I remembered that it's a project that I've made huge progress on, it's relatively simple, not a lot of things left to continue with to finish it. It was an easy no-brainer. By the way, look at what I'm looking when I'm editing it. That's what I'm looking at usually. It's a mess. But that's the cleaner view that's more helpful to seeing the overall design. Quite excited about this one. It really is a product I'm releasing because a lot of people have asked for it, and I think it's a cool little project to share with you. The title is not going to be 100 cards challenge. I'm working on it. It's going to be something different. And I think it's a wonderful way to own basically a lot of my paintings. You can get to look at them and you can gift it. I think it's going to be a wonderful gift. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what you're saying. Then maybe I'll tell you a bit more about the work process. Marjorie, I tried painting lying down when I had extreme vertigo along with everything else and couldn't do it. I could still sketch, but watercolor and laying flat was a no-go. Yeah, I don't think it'll work for me too, if I'm being honest. Laying down in particular, but sitting up, sitting down, standing up, both work really well. Raisa, I'm having a hard time coming back to painting because of my perfectionism. Do you have some advice to help me? Um, yeah, at the end of the day, there's a reason why you're a perfectionist. It means you're seeing perfectionism, you're holding it up as a value, probably. I'll need to ask you some more questions, but from the way you phrase the question, it sounds like you're putting perfectionism on some kind of a pedestal. It's important to you, it means something to you. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying, and you shouldn't. There's no, and you shouldn't at the end of this sentence. But you do hold some value in perfectionism. It's usually these things run very deep. It probably means it's a part of your identity, and that's how these things are. They end up being a part of our identity. You gain value from it, and the moment you'll let go of it is the moment you'll stop seeing it as something valuable. The way you bridge that gap, I have no answers for that. You'll have to search and understand where it comes from, what it is, when it arises, when it doesn't. Is there something you're doing with zero perfectionism? You'll notice a lot of the time, the things you're doing with zero perfectionism is the things you don't care about, which is very ironic. The things you don't care about, for example, I like cooking. So it's more important to me when things are seasoned correctly. If I wouldn't like cooking, I just do it haphazardly. I wouldn't mind if I mess a dish up. Um, because it's something that I'm familiar with, that I like, that is maybe to some degree important to me to get right. But the things you don't care about, there's not going to be any perfectionism there. Now, the question is, does this perfectionism serve you? If you're able to see, or when you're able to see that it does not serve you, a path will open, a way out, so to speak. Oh, that makes sense. Feel free to share more. I can follow up on that. Tara, did you do the flower on cold press paper? Yes, it was cold press paper. Josh, you're happy about that? We're gonna do a launch party when the book is out. I'm gonna do a live stream. Maybe we'll do like a fun 3-hour live stream. Maybe we'll do a read through of some snippets of it. I don't know. It sounds like something fun that I don't do barely anytime. It's usually like a video and hey, the thing, the product is out. The Arthur, oh, that looks awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you so much. John, the book looks awesome. Thank you so much. I've simplified the whole thing. You know, I overthought so much about the design and everything. At some point, I don't care. I want it to look. The painting speaks for it. The paintings speak for themselves. It's going to look fantastic. It's going to be a simple, relatively simple format. It's not going to be anything too complex. It's going to look good. It's going to feel good. It's going to be a nice product. It's not going to be hardcover, unfortunately, because they don't have that horizontal format in hardcover, only paperback. That's my limitation. I could go another route and publish it with a different service. Amazon's the easiest. If you come to me with a great service that does it, maybe I'll consider. Maybe I can do the. There are other similar services to Amazon that publish to Amazon as well. Maybe I can consider doing that for the hardcover. Usually, you can decide you can publish the paperback with Amazon, the hardcover without Amazon. They give you a lot of freedom. So I may consider that. For now, it's going to be a paperback though. Ideally, I would want it to be a hardcover, but the hardcovers also are super expensive to produce. I'll have to price it at 20 something dollars and make a $1 profit, which kind of is sad. So yeah, that's another hindrance, I would say. Marjorie, it was so much easier for me to paint loose in oil. I think it had to do with knowing I could correct anything by painting over. And that is a great point, Marjorie, and let me tell you why. Because perfectionism is usually, it's a fear, right? Whatever you want, you have the fear of not getting it. If you want perfectionism, you have the fear of making a mistake, screwing up. How easy is it to not feel any kind of perfectionism and not feel any fear when there is no consequences? And there's no consequences when you can continue fixing with oil. With watercolor, some people perceive there is a consequence. Some people perceive always there is a consequence, even in oils, even in acrylics, whatever medium they use, there is a consequence of disappointing yourself. And that's usually the thing that stops people from painting freely. Daiji, my friend, go through the cycle of imposter syndrome. Is it normal? How did you overcome it? Yeah, I never had imposter syndrome to a degree that I can comment on. It's just not my thing. I think imposter syndrome comes when you're pretending to be something you're not. I never pretended to, even to yourself, by the way, not to others. I never pretended to be something I'm not. I always said, I'm still learning, I'm still improving. I have a course on drawing, and I'm still learning and improving every day. So yes, in a couple of years, I'm going to be better than what I'm teaching in the course. That is fine. The whole goal is to help a person who needs to advance from a place that is of less experience than me. That's how I see it. Um, Never had to deal with it. Never was an issue. It was always about sharing what I know. A lot of other people know more than me, and I think it's that freedom that allowed me to just continue developing. Like, it's like the be water kind of thing, right? I forgot the name of the movie that's from, but yeah. Um, and that's the thing that allowed me to just freely move through making art, always feeling the freedom to change stuff around, to reinvent things, to try some things, to notice when I'm sick of things, to notice when I'm sick of my paintings looking like X artist's paintings, to notice when I do want to change something, to vary something, mix it up, or when something is beautiful and it's uniquely mine and I want to preserve it. I think that's what gives that ultimate freedom, is the thing I'm after always. Um, and yeah, things like imposter syndrome just means you're making traps for yourself. Now, I can say that to you, and that would almost be belittling the issue, so to speak, right? Because it's insinuating or hinting that you're able to see it as such. And you and anyone else, I'm talking to a very vague you, right? Not you personally. And that's how it is, um, the more you understand where it comes from, the better you'll be able to move away from it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. It's not, you're not a bad person for having imposter syndrome. It's not something to get rid of. It's not something to solve. Um, but if you notice that it limits you in a way, you have a path forward. Um, New Mew Heart. I love that username, I have to say. And I love Mew. Have you seen the technique where they overlap layers of colors starting from yellow to orange, red, etc., leaving out areas that remain light but continue till black? It looks luminous. Yeah, I know what you mean. I actually have one car in the book that I did it with, and I forgot. I don't think. Um, Man, I don't think I wrote a description for it. It's this one. I don't think I mentioned it even. I need to go back and make sure I think I missed this section. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I haven't reached that yet. That's why I'm thinking ahead of myself. This car was painted this way. See, it's just blank description. This car right here. That's how I painted it. I started with yellow. I added blue, red, blue. Let me tell you what I think about it. I think it's perfect. If it works for you. To me, it didn't work the majority of times I tried it. I wish it would have. It didn't end up a result I liked. I don't know why. Maybe I haven't discovered exactly how to use it. Um, to me, it didn't work. I wish it would have. And maybe it will in the future. I don't know, but yeah, it's legit. I've seen a lot of people do it. I've seen a lot of people that are very classically trained. By the way, sorry for the darkness. I'm in the dark here. It's much better than turning on the light. Trust me. Um, I've seen people who are classically, traditionally trained in art do it to beautiful results. So it's definitely a legit way of doing it if it works for you. And I know exactly the type of process you mean. I've seen it. Suzanne, thanks. Thank you from Suzanne in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. I love that name, Sheboygan. I don't know who I heard a couple of people mention it. I love it. Linda, very insightful about perfectionism. Yes. Happy it was useful. Um, I know I'm a perfectionist even with pie crust. Yep, I get it. So Jenny, I agree, Marjorie is much easier on ourselves. Yes, there is some truth to that. Really free artist. I think we'll enjoy intuitive painting than realism. The thing with watercolor is it it has the potential to trap you into that perfectionism trap. But if you're able to see through it, it's so fun. It's the complete opposite. It's so freeing, you know. I'm very happy to hear Daiji. Very, very happy. Um, it's one of those things, you know, you really dive into and explore. Um, because it's about understanding, you know, there is a gap somewhere. It's never about doing, it's never about habits, it's never about something that is forced. It always comes in the way of what's very natural, the path of least resistance. Another thing that kind of is frowned upon. I think that's where all the magic is. Look at this car. I love it. I love this Mini Cooper. It's a Mini Cooper, right? I think it is. It's one of my favorites here as well. Do you like the description? It says description. How about that? I honestly, I love these details here. I love these, and hopefully it will look good. I added a bleed to the book so that the pictures can go across the edge. I think it'll look really, really good. I'm looking forward to it. Again, look at what I'm having to deal with when it's yeah. But I love it. I'm using InDesign to construct it, and it's a great Adobe. I pay Adobe so much money, it hurts, but yeah, I have to. So, Jenny, imposter syndrome is felt by most of us. I think, especially when you compare more with others than when you focus only on your own growth. Yeah, I think even focusing on your own growth, I don't even focus on my own growth. If I'm being honest with you, I'm just focusing on the moment of creation, whatever it brings. I think even focusing on your growth is a trap, because then you start comparing your growth to yesterday. And you know, it's a very common advice to tell yourself, to tell other people, you know, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to how you were yesterday. But I would argue even that isn't really useful, in the sense of useful to get the result most people want, which is just to feel good, and to not even feel good, but to create the thing they want. Um, I would say it's not even about focusing on anything. The only thing I focus on is the painting that I'm working on right now. Um, that's the thing that allows me to continue flowing through all of this. Um, Vixelnix, I have the same problem, perfection and staying loose. Any chance on some advice on your frustration-free watercolor course? Yeah, so the frustration-free watercolor course gives you a couple of processes, ideas, approaches to try in an attempt to almost shake you out of perfectionism. Um, the goal is at the end of the day to inspire you to to understand what's blocking you from being loose. It's not going to be a surefire thing, but it's the closest thing I've seen in the market by anyone that has to do with painting freely. I think it's the closest thing you'll find out there. Maybe I should do an updated, not an updated version, but maybe a different product that is aimed more towards that mental side of things. I'll have to think about it. It's these insights are things you want to very carefully share with others, because for the most part, you really want the person to be ready to ready, not in the way of, you know, making a decision that I'm going to change. Not none of that. It's something completely different. It just that you know that the what you communicate to the other person actually lands in the way that will get them to find what they want. Um, yeah, that's what I would say. But you're definitely not alone, and maybe it's something I should address in more detail. Because if you look on YouTube, like how to paint loose watercolor, how to avoid stiffness in painting in general, you'll just find a bunch of advices and how to's that probably will not work. If I'm being honest, probably will not work. Thank you, Sir Jenny. Yeah, I love that kind of an effect. I love that. Same here for the Thunderbirds, man. These are really, really nice. I love that. I funny enough, I like this one maybe a bit more than this. No, you know what? I like the front here. No, I like both. Um, thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Um, not sure how to pronounce your name. Mayers. It's probably an abbreviation of some sorts or a foreign pronunciation to me. So sorry about that. I try to keep thinking. It's just a piece of paper and a bit of paint. If I don't like it, I can flip it over and try again. Yes, that is true. That is true. Laura, Marjorie, nothing wrong with producing a perfect pie crust. Oh man, definitely. If I'm the person who's going to eat it, nothing wrong with it. Heads up, COVID is going around US again. It's more mild. My caregiver won't be here today. Just tested positive. Friends in England have it too now. Yeah, what I had, I'm pretty sure was not COVID. Now I'm not in US, but um, I'm pretty sure it's not COVID because COVID felt very different. This felt more like a um, kind of a variation of a flu and a cold. COVID, I had real muscle aches. Like my body was tired physically. This time, it was mostly around my face and my head was really felt stuffy. Um, Linda, the course is the frustration-free watercolor course. That was the course in question. You can find a link to everything below, but that was the course relevant to that question. Gina, good morning. So good to see you. Good to see you too. Thank you for being here. Um, thank you so much, Marjorie. Who is your favorite artist, Tara? I would say me. But let's say the artist I would indulge most at. It's a good question. I think I can't narrow it down to under 10 because it's hard, but I would say I keep coming back to John Singer Sargent. I barely look at other people's art, barely, but if it is placed in front of me, the ones I would enjoy most are John Singer Sargent. I'm a big fan of Alvaro Castanet. I think there is a lot of magic in what he does. The scenes that are the more like I can pick out the ones. If you're looking for the kind I talk about by Alvaro, because he has a lot of paintings that I feel like are. I mean, they're fantastic, and he's a master. But to my taste, they're average. To my taste, again, not to my judgment of them, but if I put things on a scale of how much I love them and how much I don't enjoy looking at them, that falls kind of in the average. The paintings of his that I think are the best are the paintings of the studio, where he does with the brushes and all of that. His interiors are lovely, his cityscapes are lovely. The ones that I really pay attention to are the ones of the studio. The cup with the brushes in them, the photo, the sink. These are wonderful. It does show that these are subject matters he's more familiar with and loves personally. And I think there's a lot of value to that. Now, why isn't this centered, right? I'm not going crazy. This isn't centered. So let me center it. It's the kind of things you notice. Or is it centered? That's strange. It says it is, but I mean, am I going crazy? Oh, maybe it's because the gutter has more. I'm sorry. That's things that should not be of any interest to you. If I'm being honest, I love this one too. This one is really nice. What else was there? But yeah, some other. Is there anything else? I like Homer. Oh, I love what's his name? Man, I keep forgetting his name. Wow. It's an artist, like he's amazing, and I keep forgetting his name. But yeah, I love his work too. A lot of it comes down to really personal taste. It's not an objective scale. COVID symptoms are changing with this go around, more like cold for otherwise healthy people. Yeah, could be. Linda, great answer. Me, yes, yes, yeah. That is definitely it. But it's definitely changing from the time I did a video on my favorite artists. That for sure. Tara, I can paint, but I really struggle to sketch. Any advice? So it's interesting. I'm gonna, yeah, Mark Foley is good, and he's very unique too. Tara, I'll ask you a follow up question. So, when you say you struggle to sketch, in what way do you struggle in getting the result you want, or do you struggle? You just feel less confident, and you don't like it as you're doing it. Um, and of course, seeing works will help. Um, the thing I'm thinking of is it kind of works a little differently sketching, but also similarly to painting. With painting, you're putting the finished thing there, even if it's an initial wash. Or with sketching, you're building a structure to follow. Some people don't see the point of sketching. Um, they don't really enjoy it as much, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not something to be changed. I think it's a matter of taste. I personally really enjoy sketching, but I enjoy it not as much for the result necessarily, but more for the act of sketching, if that makes sense. My sketch is very cartoon like, which I don't like. Um, yeah, very cartoon like. Interesting, interesting. Um, it's a good question. I'll have to probably see some works. Maybe send me an email. I'll let you know what I think. Um, sketching has to do with the perception of shapes usually. So, um, for example, things going away from you in space will appear to look shorter, to shrink, to look smaller. And if you don't understand that very deeply, understand in the sense of like you actually understand it without thinking about it, um, you'll end up drawing it not the way it actually appears in space. And that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from. It's like a kid drawing a hand like five sausages instead of the actual shape of the fingers. And it can be very frustrating. So I would say it's a gap of understanding what you're looking at for the most part. Um, One thing that helped me, I don't know if it'll help everyone, but um, I chose a specific thing I struggled with, and then I really had a go at understanding it better. So if it's hands, I did a lot of hand drawings, um, not just drawing the hand as it is, but simplifying it into boxes, understanding how the knuckles are built, like how they're actually built, the anatomy of them. I did a deep dive. To me, that helped. I don't know if it will help everyone, but that's something I found improved my understanding. And with that understanding improving came better results. So that's what I would say. Yeah, Ryan, Mark Foley is super unique. I also I looked at some of his processes lately. He posted a relatively long one. He has a very unique way of working. It feels to me like he kind of taught himself. He really self-taught, like Joseph Zbukvich, by the way. He kind of found his own path, which I'm slowly starting to feel like I am too. Just erasing a lot of unnecessary things and finding the ones that are necessary. So yeah, I really appreciate uh, that in separation to the fact that his results are beautiful, and I love them. I love the results he gets. Liliana, hi everyone from Argentina. I like Joseph Bukvich. Yes, he's wonderful. He has a very unique kind of touch with the brush. Gina, drawing has never been easy, so I just draw my flowers from imagination. Yeah, that's that way. You're not uh, held to any. That's how it should look. I love the Barg drawing course for help with drawing. And Mark Tarr Holmes has a great book about urban sketching that has a good section about drawing. What I like about Barg is it almost made it scientific in a way of if you follow this process, you will get this result. I do think at some point you'll move beyond that. Um, but for a sort of experimentation mindset, it's great. It's great. By the way, here's another one of my favorite cars here. This is I love this cover. This looks so good to me. New Mew Heart. What art books have a strong influence of you? None really. I don't think any. I like Jack Ham's drawing landscapes and seascapes, but other than that, not really anything. Don't have a good answer. Sorry, Ryan. Yes, it's also the subject matter that Mark Foley chooses as well. Yes, the subject matter, the interpretation of it is very unique. Yes, so true. Marjorie, although a social studies teacher as a substitute teacher, I was requested. Oh, although a social studies teacher as a substitute teacher, I was requested by art teachers to cover them. As far as sketching, I would encourage you to sketch, 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 even if it's just your other hand. Yeah, I did a lot of sketching of my other hand. It's funny. All of the sketches are of the left hand. It's so funny. I'm really enjoying this live stream. I didn't think will go for this long, but it's really fun. Here's another really good one. Here's another one. Oh, by the way, this reminds me of another one I really like. That truck at the end. You may know what I'm talking about. This one, yes, this one I really really like. It looks really close to the Hear my voice cracking. It is really close to the reference. Oh, I wanted to share the reference too. Maybe I'll include that as well. Mm. Maybe I'll include it here in small. I'll leave this page open and I will remember to. I'll actually add a box here. Otherwise, I will forget. Um, but yeah. Vixelnix. Turner has nice sky and transparency. Yeah, very transparent. Too transparent for my taste when it comes to, again, what I enjoy the most to look at. Same for, I don't know, it's just my personal preference. I like when the paint has a strong, like opaque impact, even when it's watercolor. Like this, you see how this confident kind of shapes that negatively create the tarp. I love that. Marjorie, because Yinmin blue watercolor is supposed to be metallic, I wonder about using it to paint cars. I find there is not a lot of connection there usually. Only, and I know exactly what you mean, by the way, because the color visually always looks a little different. Because it's affected by the light and shadow around it. So usually these things don't pan out the way you would think maybe they do. But who knows? I mean, maybe I should try out painting metallic, even or reflective cars with it. And maybe it will lead to this kind of result. Who knows? It's one of those, gotta experiment, So yeah, man, it's super dark. I'm in the darkness here. So yeah, I think we'll move towards wrapping it up. I feel like my voice needs a bit of rest. I hate it, but I had no choice. But it's been really, really fun, and I really hope you enjoyed the process as well. The Dahlia process, that was a good one for me, and I was very happy to get it just right, just how I imagined, with the variety of edges and all of that. Look at this highlight here, by the way. I like that a lot. Sometimes you'll see a gap in the tire from the plate, and the rest of it looks really cool. Linda, I love the fact that you're finding your own way and style. Yeah, that's my kind of progression, and it makes things easier, not harder. Better results with an easier process. How's that? That's how it should be, in my opinion. Um, Ryan, I have a bunch of photos of my silver Lexus SC430, specifically the rear and tail lights that I want to paint. I should send them to you. Oh, I love these kinds of things. Yeah, feel free to. If you don't mind me painting them, feel free to send them over. I'd be curious to see it. Uh, I thought of starting a new challenge, 100 tail lights challenge, but that would be insane. Isn't a shiny metallic? I thought I sent you a sample. Yeah, you have sent me a sample. I don't mean in the sense of shiny. I mean in the sense of a metallic reflective feeling. I just don't think it's very hard to tie a specific color to a specific material, is what I find. It just usually doesn't work that way. I don't know why. You'd think it would make sense. It doesn't. Even when you look at things like flowers and paints that feel very gentle, usually the actual color I end up using to make it look realistic, that's what I'm talking about here mostly, will be different. I don't know why it works that way, and sometimes it's very frustrating too. But yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I should try it out for that specific subject. I actually tried out this small pen. I love it. But yeah, it's an interesting color. John, thank you so much. Jay, Elias, thank you so much as well for being here. New Mewhart, thank you. Happy you enjoyed this one. The Arthur, thank you so much. Yes, it's always fun. Just joining. Oh, sorry, Jacqueline. Sorry, you're just wrapping up. But I think you'll enjoy it. I've shown a bit of the Cars book towards the end, so some interesting updates there. We'll do a proper. Like I'm so looking forward to it. As soon as I'm done, we'll do a launch live stream. As soon as I hit the publish, I'm gonna time it with the live stream, and it's gonna be fun. I think it's fun. I never have made an art book. It's the first time. My books are instructive. This is the first one. It is not really instructive. It's just here's a bunch of art. So excited about that. By the way, look at these highlights. This was painted opaquely. I love it. Gina, MT Daniel Smith Amethyst Sparkles, and I like it a lot. And that's the thing. I have a couple of these. I like them, but they don't match a specific material. I don't know why. I have no idea why. Oh, one thing I haven't shown you is the cover for the book, but maybe I'll keep that a secret for now. I'll keep that a secret, Jacqueline. But yeah, I'll keep you gradually posted on how it goes. The cover does have this on it. this painting that I completed, I don't know, 2 days ago maybe, or yesterday, I don't remember. I think 2 days ago. So yeah, that's very exciting to me, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. Thank you so much, Linda. Yes, I will rest my voice now. And thank you so much to everyone who was here today. Look at how grainy the background is because of the darkness. I just didn't turn on the light. Right, guys, take care. Until next time, keep creating. I will post a video on Saturday from the live stream with the cars. You'll see. And I will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much, Vixel Nix. Thank you so much, Buck, for being here. Much appreciated. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.